What if understanding the energy around you could completely transform your relationships and personal growth? What would you do? Next on the podcast. Let's do this.
Welcome to the No Sitting on the Sideline Dad podcast, a podcast about a journey of discovery and conversations about not sitting on the sideline of life. Let's get involved. Here's host Joe Foley.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joe Foley. Today we're going to be taking a slightly different approach. One that makes you think about life, relationships, even the energy that flows around you in a whole new way. First off, thank you for being here. Hey, if this is your first time, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. It means a lot to me that you are here. I know we're busy parents and all that stuff, and I'm really happy you're here. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to today's guest, June Edwards. She's not just any guest. June is a psychic medium and relationship guru with an incredible story and some fascinating insight to share with us. We'll discuss her journey, what it means to tap into energy, and understand that you can seriously change your life and relationships. Whether you're curious about spiritual side or want to find out a better way to connect with people in your life, this interview will be something really interesting. So relax, dive into this fascinating conversation with June Edwards. Welcome to the podcast, June.
Good morning.
I'm curious because I see these medium stuff all the time, and especially we're going to talk about near-death and experience and stuff like that. What is your journey as a psychic medium? I'm curious because I've always been wondering about that stuff.
So everybody's born with the ability. It's a matter
Mhm.
of what you do with it. Some people are born with more ability than others. It's like playing a piano. Some people sit down and all they can do is play chopsticks. Other people want to learn a little bit more and they teach themselves a couple of songs. Other people decide this is what I want to do for a living and they become concert pianists. And then I was like the child prodigy that sat down at 6 years old and played Mozart. I was born with a lot of ability. Apparently, some of that's inherited. My mom was a medium, but I didn't know that until later in life. And as a child, it was quite frightening. You don't understand what's happening. You wake up in the morning and hear voices and see faces in your room. And as you get older, you start telling your friends in school what's going to happen, and you get labeled a freak very quickly. So for the most part, I tried to block my abilities most of my life. And when we're here, we're not the suit that sits here. We are the energetic soul that's inside. So when we live this 3D life, we have a brain in our head, and our brain has a specific job. The brain's job is to protect you. How does it do that? It creates fear. Most people block their own abilities based on fear to begin with. And because I was afraid, I blocked most of my ability. So what your ability really is, it's energy. We talk about energy, frequency. It's all the same thing. It's all the same word. It's what we are. Where your thoughts go, your energy flows, because thoughts are things. It's energy. And everybody's had situations in their life where they've thought about somebody and then they either showed up or they called them, right? That's because that's what we call our psychic ability. It's your energy going there. And if you listen to your soul, which is that energy, you have this knowing. What's the difference between thinking and knowing? And when you follow that knowing without questioning it, it always works out the way it's supposed to. But we grow up trained to block that and have fear of it. And I did as well. And I died at 27. I came back here by choice. And you would think that would be the time that my abilities would really open up and my outlook would change, right? But
Yeah.
It wasn't what I had planned, apparently, in this lifetime, because we plan our lives here. And I really had a long way still to go in order to still go through a lot of things to help the people that I help now. And I still had fear of my abilities at that point. And it took me a long time to process. Think about it. Our belief system is based on what we've been told, what we've learned, or what we've experienced firsthand. And before dying, literally, I had been exposed to so many different religions in my life because my mom was looking. And I didn't really think any of it was real, to be honest. I believed that there was a higher power. I've always felt that, known that. But as far as angels and saints and all that, I thought there was just, made up stuff that people need to really grow up, right?
One question I have is, you mentioned about suit and energy. I wonder if you could talk more about that because that's interesting.
Sure. So everything in the universe is energy. People don't understand it because they can't see it. You can't see
Mhm.
the air you're breathing. It's there. You can't see the microwaves cooking your food. Clearly it is. But everyone, when they really get in touch with their soul, can feel and learn how to recognize energy. So if you've walked into a funeral, that low vibration, everybody's crying, right? That's low energy. You walk into a birthday party or a wedding and you feel that elation, or if you're in love, that's the highest vibration there is, in love. That's energy. Okay. That's the fluctuation difference. So when you think of quantum physics, okay, the speed of light is almost 300 million miles a second. That's an extremely high
Wow.
vibration. So again, vibration, energy, frequency, all different words for the same thing. That's an extremely high vibration. And when I died and my energetic soul went into that light, that's the speed it was traveling, 300 million miles a second. And it came in back into my body at that speed. That's a really high vibration. So my vibration is automatically much higher than most people. As
Mhm.
humans, we, for the most part, vibrate around 500 megahertz, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, but that's the average. So when you learn how to read energy and pick up on energy, if I'm working a missing person case and I'm tapping into that person, if they haven't gone into the light and they don't want me to know they're dead, I can't tell because their vibration is the same. A ghost that's here has the same vibration as a human being. Once they've gone into that light, I can tell immediately that energy vibration is higher and they've passed to the other side.
It's interesting too. And I was thinking about, yeah, but now I think it's a couple of TV shows that have it as an investigator, and all of a sudden people appear around her. What has been your experience of, is it interacting with people like that? Because is that actually fiction or has actually
No.
happened to
So
you?
everybody's abilities are a little different. Okay. Just like a piano. So for me, when I was a child, I was seeing them, I was hearing them, and I blocked that most of my life. And
Mhm.
about 10 years ago, my abilities opened up again. After I died, my abilities started to open up again because I was letting myself be more curious and I was able to hear them again and I was able to see orbs. I wasn't seeing full figure apparitions at that point, but I was able to see the energy again. Now I see it's like for me, it's like an episode of The Walking Dead. I see them everywhere because there's so many stuck here. They're all over the place. When I'm doing a reading for someone, however, and they're coming from heaven, they're coming from that fifth dimension, they have to lower that vibration for the most part, come down here. Most mediums connect by raising their vibration because we're in 3D. Your dream state is 4D, and the lowest level of heaven is 5D. But when I'm doing a reading for someone, hundreds of people show up because
Oh, wow.
anybody, not even the ones that are connected to you, but everybody hoping that I'm going to say something stupid. Oh, whoever wants to give a message, right? Then your next door neighbor's grandfather comes through wanting to, it's ridiculous. So I spend a year and a half in training before I did anything to know who I'm talking with, how to protect myself, how to read all the energy. And then my education literally took over from the other side. And they taught me you don't do that. I ask specifically for who someone wants to talk to, and that's the person that comes through.
It's interesting too. You always see the people on TV and stuff, and they're like, "John, is a person begins with a P?" And what's the difference? Are there some people who are champs? I hate to use the word, but what's the difference
Yeah, and
between a real?
everybody's abilities are different. You know, I used to do platform mediumship. So you'd go
Mhm.
into an auditorium, there's 300 people, you're on the stage. And this is what most mediums do. They're like, oh, I've got somebody here. His name starts with a P. He's wearing overalls, and all these hands go up, right? It's just random stuff. They don't know who they've got. You can spend your whole night trying to figure out who the person is. And that's why I don't do that. I go over to the person specifically and say, who do you want to talk to? Just say their name in your head. I'll describe them, and that's who shows up all the time. As soon as you call them at home, as soon as you think of them, they show up. That's how it works. But a lot of people were not trained that way or have the ability to be able to bring through specific people for whatever reason.
I was always interested in how the people do it because you see it on TV and stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm curious how they approach that. But do you sometimes, I know you get people come through and doing things like that, but do you have to deal with stuff that's not really evil, something that can be really hurt people too?
What do you mean? I'm not sure.
Like, is there bad entities that try to come through also?
So there is good and evil in the world. And
Yeah.
my calling is not to work with lower vibrational entities. Lower vibrational entities are the ghosts that are stuck here and demonic activity. Okay.
Mhm.
However, again, I got my education from the other side and I had to learn from them. So they put me in situations where I had no choice but to work with demonic entities. I have consulted with many paranormal groups and authors. They would send me pictures. I
Mhm.
would interpret those pictures and tell them what I'm seeing. And a lot of times there were demons in there. A lot of times there was one that had a sorcerer in it. And just because they're not living anymore, they have more power on the other side than they do here. Had I understood that at the time, I would have protected myself differently because I was attacked. But I don't channel those through. I protect myself before I open myself up to anything so that nothing evil can come through to me. And again, when you learn how to read the energy, there's a difference. Something that's demonic, it'll be that pit in your stomach feeling that you just want to throw up. That's the difference in the energy. It's so low.
Well, I have two questions actually. First question is, what scared you? Have a reading or something that actually scared you?
Never. Never.
Never?
Doesn't
How
scare
about one
me.
that made you
The reason why it doesn't scare me, I can't do this work if I have any fear. I can't. I've had to chase a demon
Mhm.
around a 3-family building because it was attacking the family. And I had to get it out
Wow.
of the building. And it was afraid of me because I've been in the light. I can go back and forth to the light. I brought angels with me. They're afraid of me. God wins all the time. God's power is much higher than any demon's power, and they are afraid of that. And you have to know that. When you have fear, they feed off that fear. Having died and gone to the other side, it's a wonderful place. I look forward to going back. It's amazing. I have no fear at all. I know I'm not going downstairs because the only way to get there is to sell your soul to the devil or take a life and have no remorse. That's the only 2 ways to get there.
What is one of those experiences, like, you were so happy that you had that experience doing this?
I am. I'm grateful for all this experience they've given me. It's just like you can't know joy if you don't have grief, right?
Mhm.
You can't know one side without knowing the other. You can't understand that there's a heaven and say, oh, I guess there's no hell. They made sure I know that there is evil that goes, everything in the universe, there's an opposite. Everything has to stay in balance.
Any experience that stood out to you? Like, you can remember a story that really stood out to you?
Oh, there's hundreds. What would you like to know?
Our top 2.
Sorry?
The top 2.
Well, my top one is I've been in business my whole life. And I'm one
Mhm.
of these people that before I died, it was if I can't see it, feel it, touch it, it must not be real, right?
Mhm.
Even though I had a lot of ability as a child, I'm one of these people that I want to see the science behind it. I want to see the proof. Don't just throw crap at me. And when I started doing this, like everybody else, you start out reading cards and making sure that you're picking up the right information and all that stuff. And I had done a New Year's Eve reading fair at a place in Newport, Rhode Island. So the second year that I did it, word got out that I was really good and accurate, and the line was really long and it was crazy. And I was doing 15-minute readings for 9 hours. And about an hour or 2 before I was done, this old woman in her 80s and her daughter ended up going to sit at a side table not too far from me. So I was all done. I'm packing up, and the daughter says, "So are you all done for the night?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go home. I'm exhausted. It's 8 o'clock at night already." And she goes, "Can you do one more reading? My mom's been waiting for a couple of hours." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Bring her over. Sit down." So I said, "Would you like to talk to someone from the other side, or do you want to have a reading?" She's like, "I want to talk to my son." I'm like, "Okay." So, "Do you want to talk to your dad first? He's been standing next to you for an hour and a half or so over there." She goes,
Mhm.
"Okay." I said, "Did he have one of those cars that you hand crank?" She goes, "I have no idea." I'm like, "Okay." I can only give what I get. And this is a problem. You have to get out of your ego. So I said, well, did he have some occasion to wear a black top hat and a tuxedo and have one of these short little canes about this big? She goes, oh yeah, that's my dad. I'm like, okay. I said, and apparently your mom and him were very much in love because they give me lots of symbols. I said, this woman just came over and they put their arms around each other. I said, but she's wearing this big ball dress with a crown in her hair. She goes, yep, that's my mom, because I have that same picture hanging over my fireplace. I'm like, okay. I said, so your dad's a little upset because he said that the family name ended with you because your son didn't have any children and no one else had any children. She goes, I still want to talk to my son. I said, okay, call him again. And I described the next person to show up. She goes, oh, that's my brother. I said, okay. I said, do you want to know who killed him? She goes, no, we think we know who murdered him. He's went to prison. I'm like, okay, we're in him as this, right? So I said, he wants your dad to know. You think they talk on the other side, but quite honestly, it's so vast, you can do whatever the heck you want. So if you're not searching someone out, you don't. So he says he wants dad to know that the bloodline didn't die. He goes, I had 2 children out of wedlock. And she's, oh my God, who? And he goes, one. She goes, I always thought that was your son. I knew it. He goes, who's the other one? And he goes, I'm not telling you because you'll probably stir up trouble. So she says, I still want to talk to my son. I said, call him again. And he's not coming up. So the only time I have trouble bringing them through is if they think you are angry at them, they feel they let you down, or they committed suicide. So I had to ask the brother to go into the crowd and find him, which he did. And I see him grabbing somebody by their arm and pulling them up. And this person stands in front of me with his head down. And I described him and I said, his head's down. I said, you think he committed suicide? And she goes, yeah, I do. I think I caused it. And all of a sudden his head pops up and he says, no, I did not commit suicide. It was an accident. I said, he said it was an accident. So now the daughter was sitting off to the side trying to give her mom some privacy. She comes running over. She goes, I knew it was an accident. She goes, the police kept saying it was suicide. And I knew it. He had a new girlfriend. He was happy. He was making dinner. The lights were on. There was no suicide note. I said, something happened. I said, I'm feeling, it's not a hanging that I'm getting. I'm getting that he's missing his head. She's like, yep, he beheaded himself.
Wow.
And now I asked him to show me what happened. Oh, this is crazy. And he's showing me watching TV and they're juggling chainsaws. And he went down to the barn to see if he could juggle a chainsaw. He said, they changed my medication that I was on and I was out of it. He goes, and I thought I could do it. And I went down to the barn to juggle a chainsaw and it missed and it beheaded me. And his mother was like, yeah, that's what happened. We did change his medication. And yeah, she goes, I thought he killed himself because I was so tough on him and I wanted him to get a job and things like that. And he's, no, it was an accident. And she's telling me that she's tried to talk to him. He won't come to her dreams, all these things. And this was like 45 years earlier. So they were able to make amends. And I said to her, I said, why didn't you come see somebody like me earlier? Your life would have been so different. And she told me that for 45 years, she's gone to see every medium she could. And I'm the first one to ever bring him through. So right then and there, I said, you know what? I don't care if people think I'm a nut job. I don't care. If I had helped that woman 45 years earlier, can you imagine how different her life would have been? And him on the other side, they were both in grief.
She would have to live with that all her life, about that, all the stuff with the grief and thought about her son and stuff like that.
Yeah, she threatened him to kill himself. That's terrible. Yeah. Yeah. So
and interesting too. What's interesting too is your near-death experience. I was researching near-death experiences before this interview and stuff, and there's a wide variety of different experiences. But what was yours?
So everything is lumped into what they call a near-death experience, and that term was coined by doctors that could not quantify what happened. And so I researched them as well. I never called it a near-death experience, an NDE, because I died and I knew I died and that was it. So what I've learned since is that the 2 things that you take with you when you die is knowledge and your feeling all of your feelings. I used to say it was love, but I realized, because that's what I experienced, overwhelming love. But I realized doing this work that we take all of our feelings, our hurt, our sadness, our regret, all of that we take with us. If you're in a car accident or something, so first of all, your soul is way too big for this body. Okay. Some of it's
Hmm.
in your body. Some of it is over your body that they call an aura that some people can see. And the majority of your soul is in that lowest level of heaven, the fifth dimension. And it orchestrates the timing of the events that happen in this lifetime. Okay. Because you planned this life. So if you're getting into a car accident, that's going to really hurt and you're going to feel it, your
Hmm.
soul jumps out of your body. My youngest brother was almost killed in an accident when he was 16, and he remembers standing on the sidewalk watching all of this unfold until the paramedics came, and then he went back into his body. That's called a near-death experience. You're near death. You don't die.
Mhm.
It's not his time to die. You can die outside of your time, but he didn't. My girlfriend, the same thing. She's a huge Catholic, and she thought that she did something wrong and wasn't going to go to heaven because she had a deer come through her side window and she
Oh, wow.
saw the spirit of the deer go up to heaven, but her soul was stuck on the headliner of the car. She jumped out of
Oh,
the start of the body and was stuck on the headliner until the paramedics came and she went back in the body. And they do that to protect you so you're not feeling all that trauma. Your soul is not being damaged by it. Okay.
Mhm.
So everything is lumped into a near-death experience. So very few, less than 10% of the people that have an NDE truly die and make it to the fifth dimension, to the level that I made it to, the lowest level of
Mhm.
heaven. Less than that have a near life review, a full life review, which I had. It's like sitting in the front row of an IMAX theater and watching your
Oh, wow.
life play out in front of you. And again, everyone's is different depending on the message that they're trying to get across to you. I think they really wanted me to come back and knew I was going to, and they were showing me all the happy times in my life. Because to that point, I'd had a pretty difficult life. And they were showing me the people that loved me and all the wonderful times I'd had. They weren't showing my children, which was interesting. And when I remembered I had 2 children, that's the reason that I came back. But I also heard from behind me while I'm watching this that it's not really my time. I can stay if I
Mhm.
want to, or I could come back. It was my choice. And that happened to next to no one. And what I've learned since is it was an out that I wrote into my life plan that I could have taken and stayed. And it wouldn't have affected anything else in my life at that point because it had been a planned out. Suicide is never a planned out. It is never acceptable. And when you do that, you really have to go through a lot of counseling on the other side before you can reincarnate and come back again. But you can also die outside your life plan. And that is troubling for a lot of souls. And a lot of them get stuck here. They know they've died outside their life plan and it's troubling for them.
It's interesting. You mentioned two things: counseling and the other side,
Mhm.
and reincarnation. Can you explain more about that? Because it sounds very interesting.
So there's a hierarchy on the other side, the same as there is here. There's rules on the
Mhm.
other side, the same as there is here. And we reincarnate so first of all, time is different. Okay. The faster you move, the slower time is. If an astronaut goes up into space, he's going a lot faster than the Earth. If he's up there for 10 years and comes back down, he's 10 years older. Everyone on Earth is about 30 years older.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah. So time on the other side, it's about 3.5 to 4 years of our time to 1 year on the other side. And for instance, my sister had a lot of mental illness and issues when she was here, and she died at the age of, I think, 32 or so. And I was her, well, maybe she's older than that, somewhere around there. I was her legal guardian for at least 20 years, and she hated that. She resented me for that, but it was the only thing keeping her alive. And when she got to the other side, she didn't come visit me a lot. I have 2 sisters on the other side. The other one was around all the time. This one only came through a couple of times. It took her about a year or a year and a half, which was probably about 5 or 6 years of our time, for her to come through and apologize to me and told me that she went through some counseling on the other side because she doesn't want to have to come back and live that life to learn the lessons that she was trying to learn. And that she wanted to tell me how sorry she was, that she was jealous for the most part. And this was the reason that she treated me the way that she did. And she went through counseling and understood that. I've also had another friend who committed suicide. He was like a brother to me. We grew up together. And he committed suicide at about the age of 35. And after his parents had passed, he came through to me when I first started doing all this. And I didn't know how to clear my energy. And I took his energy on and I walked around for 3 days just crying because he was still in that state on the other side. He hadn't gotten help yet. And after his parents died, he did get help on the other side and was able to connect with his parents and ask for forgiveness from them because he knew how much he hurt them. And he came through to let me know that what the process was after committing suicide before he would be able to reincarnate. And he was good.
You mentioned that taking on his energy and you were crying for 3 days. Does that happen often?
So if you don't understand how to protect yourself, a lot of people are empaths and they absorb other people's energy. So if they go to the mall, all of a sudden they come home and they're miserable or they're depressed and they don't understand why for days. Negative energy is positively charged. So you take that on until you can dispel it. So what I recommend to all empaths and what I do is use sea salt because sea salt is negatively charged and it immediately neutralizes that energy. So now I know how to protect myself. Even when I'm bringing someone in from the other side, if they get too close to me, I start picking up on their energy. If they're crying, I start crying. So I have to have them back up so that they're not directly in my energy field and I'm not picking up on all their energy. Yeah.
That's interesting too. I've always wondered about that stuff too. Another thing I was also want to talk about today is understanding energy in relationships. And that was an interesting question. That's why I talked about all the stuff about the mediumship first is understand the personal energy in every relationship. Because I know every relationship is different and everybody goes through different experiences.
Exactly. So because everything is energy, we're like magnets and we're either repelling or attracting at any given time. And again, energy, frequency, it's all the same thing. So everyone that's in your life is on the same energetic frequency that you are. It's like a radio station. You can't get the station in unless you're on the right channel, right? It's the same thing with everybody in your life. Everybody in your life is on that same frequency. So if you want to better the quality of the people in your life, if you want to connect to the other side and your soul, which is amazing, then you have to raise your vibration. So the people that are in your life are either going to rise to the occasion with their vibration or they're going to fall off and disappear. And new people are going to come into your life. That's how it works. They usually fall off before you bring the new ones in. So if it's an intimate relationship with someone, what happens is if you've been with someone for a long time, husband, wife, significant other, the energy builds up. The magnet flips. And instead of attracting, you're repelling. If you separate for a while,
that's interesting.
The energy can die down and you'll be able to reconnect again. But the same thing will happen again. The energy will keep building up, the magnet will flip, and you'll keep repelling. The only way to stop that from happening is learning how to balance your energy. Because everything in the world has to stay balanced, right? So this is where the law of attraction comes in. When you raise your vibration and get in touch with your soul, you're actually in the energy flow of the universe at that point. This is where the law of attraction starts. But if you don't balance that energy, you're going to crash because for every high, there's a low. It's got to stay in balance. And balancing your energy is not the easiest thing in the world. This is what I teach. And most people don't know how to do it. I don't know anyone else that's teaching it, quite honestly. But when you do that, you maintain that frequency. You maintain those people in your life. You maintain that law of attraction. And it's like Christmas every day. Anything you want, the universe will start to bring to you. Because you're meant to live a life of abundance. It's absolutely insane.
Well, you mentioned it was interesting too, and I never really thought of it. In the beginning relationship, energy is super high.
Yeah.
And you can't see enough of each other. Everything's great.
And then it crashes. You wonder if you want to even be with that person anymore, right? And you don't see each other for a little while, and then you get back together again, and the energy starts to come back.
It's an interesting flow. It's like a flow.
A roller coaster ride. And that's life. That's all of life. It's like a roller coaster ride. But you're going to attract the people that are on the frequency you're on. So if you're on a low frequency, you're going to attract those low people into your life. Liars, cheaters, thieves, whatever. In order to attract a better quality of person and more abundance in your life, you have to raise that vibration. And that's how you get in touch. So because most of your soul is on the other side in the fifth dimension with that high vibration, 300 million miles a second, right? When you meditate and you get out of your head and you tap into your soul, you're getting in touch with that part of your soul that's not just in your body, but the part that's in the lowest level of heaven. And this is what raises your vibration so quickly and exponentially so that you can get into that high vibration and that law of attraction very quickly. The trick, like I said, is learning how to balance. So the highs aren't so high, the lows aren't so low, but life becomes amazing.
I was wondering because it's like a dial, like low volume, high volume.
Exactly.
And that's what I was thinking about when you're talking because life is a challenge sometimes. You can be up and down all the time. And I didn't realize that
Supposed to
vibration.
be. Life is not supposed to be so challenging. Life is supposed to be enjoyable. We're here, seriously, for a bunch of different reasons. We're here, first of all, for a mini vacation. Because when you're on the other side for all that time, you don't have a body, you can't taste, you can't smell, you can't actually do things. You have to live vicariously through people here. You can't have sex, all of those things. So you come here for a mini vacation. You also learn your lessons faster here than on the other side and faster still within relationship. And relationship is everything. Your business is a relationship, right? With your clients, your employees. You're in relationship with your friends, your family, your parents, your significant other. Everything is a relationship. And everyone that's in your life, there is nothing that's random. Everyone is in your life for a reason, okay? And you learn your lessons faster here, and it's all about advancing your soul. Again, we're not the suit that sits here. We are the soul that's inside, and that's the prize. This is why there's God and the devil, there's evil and good. What's the prize? They both want your soul. That's the prize.
I like how you put it, mini vacation.
It is. The mini
It's a
vacation.
great way of putting it.
You're supposed to be enjoying your time here. So if you chose to suffer here, you did it for a reason. And it's interesting because I have a sister that's on the other side. And this woman suffered like you've never seen anyone suffer in your life, even down to her dying. She had stage 4 cervical cancer that ravaged through her body, a hole right through her lung. This woman suffered and she moved. She lived in California. She used to run a soup kitchen on Venice Beach for the homeless. And she moved back to her home in Badger, which is up on the Sequoia National Forest. And because she moved districts in California when she was dying, she had no health insurance when she was dying. So she couldn't even get pain medication. This woman suffered like you've never seen. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I had to ask her. In fact, I asked her fairly recently because it was a revelation for me. Why would you come back and suffer that way? And she laughed. She goes, oh, you used to tease me that I was supposed to be an ascended master. She goes, I can't. And she is. She's on that path to be an ascended master. So Jesus is an ascended master. Buddha is an ascended master. Mother Teresa, they're all ascended masters. They're teachers on the other side. But they were human and walked the earth so that they know our struggles. And this is part of her learning because she said, I cannot understand all the human suffering unless I've gone through it. For me, I could not understand why anyone would write that into their life path. I've had a tough life, but I've suffered nowhere near as much as my sister had suffered. Nowhere near. And I couldn't understand it. But that's the reason why. Because you have to walk a mile in someone's shoes before you can help them.
What's interesting, too, is I remember when my mom passed away, she died of lung cancer herself. And I remember getting the phone call from the nursing home because she was in hospice. As soon as I did that, I turned every single light on in the apartment. Because I'm like, I hear the stories about people coming to visit and saying goodbye. I'm like, all right, lights on. All the lights are on. I don't want to be sleeping. All of a sudden, somebody appears at the end of the bed. That would freak me out.
If you're not open to it when you're awake in the 3D here, they will visit you in your dreams. That's 4D. So when you go to sleep at night, your vibration actually rises and you go into that 4D state. And they will lower their vibration to meet you. And you'll know it's a visit, not a dream, because it feels like it's real. You wake up right away and you remember everything. That is a visit. And even somebody that's alive can send their soul to come visit you in your dreams at night.
I remember, I think I mentioned this in the podcast, other people too, but it's the story that when my son was born and we were at the hospital, I remember he just was born at like 12:36 in the morning and I fell asleep. And there was 3 people that appeared in my dream. It was a hospital that had all the hospital old hospital equipment,
Yeah.
but there were 3 people, and one person I could identify because her name was Sister Hugh. She was my great aunt because she had the whatever the nun hat they will call it right now.
Yep.
But they're all in shadows, but all looking down. And I remember them waking up that morning was a strong feeling of happiness for me. And I'm like, wow, I can remember so detailed.
Yeah. And
It
you,
was a
so
clock tower
that
with
was a
clocks.
visit. That was not a dream. And they were probably if you remember her so prominently, she's probably his guardian angel. Because when you're born, one of your relatives either steps up to agree to be your guardian angel or someone is appointed. Your guardian angel is not an angel. Your guardian angel was human, and they can step in and help at any time. If they see you in danger, if you're skidding out of control and something takes the wheel, that's your guardian angel. Angels on the other side, however, were never human. They're a completely separate race. Their
Mhm.
entire existence is to help us, and they cannot help you unless you ask. That is their rule. And it's the old adage that you don't know what you don't know, right? They
Mhm.
talk in binary code and numbers. So it's another thing that I teach as part of all my programs is how to talk with angels and how to recognize the signs that they're giving you so they can put you on the path that you're supposed to be on.
Another interesting too is I have all her old pictures, her Sister Hugh, all the old pictures from the family on her side. And recently I've becoming colorizing all of them. I just become obsessed with colorizing them. And believe me, Photoshop is another whole thing to learn. You need a college education.
Yeah.
But what's interesting too is as I'm doing this, I know who a couple people are, but all of a sudden I'm like, I know who that is. I can tell who that is. And it was an interesting experience
Know that she's
because
hanging around you when you're doing it.
that's what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah, she is. She's hanging around you when you. All you have to do is say their name and they show up. They don't want to be forgotten. And this is why we reincarnate every 350 to 400 years, because they want to make sure that everybody that they knew here is gone and a couple of other generations, because they're still living that experience on the other side. They're the same as they were here on the other side, just without a body. So if they were an idiot here, they're still an idiot on the other side. They don't become someone different. And they're still reliving the last lifetime, believe it or not, on the other side. So if there's things they wanted to do here, like traveling, that's what they're going to do on the other side without the body, because now they can. And it's interesting. It's not like they suddenly become enlightened or something different. They don't.
Interesting too. I was also curious too. Energy, can it prevent or resolve conflict in relationships? Because
Well,
different vibrations.
it's all about that. For every action, there's a reaction, right? It only takes one person to
Mhm.
make or break anything in a relationship. This is why when my programs, I work with one person. I don't believe in couples therapy. That's just 2 people fighting and a moderator in between that takes sides. So it takes one person to change anything in the world, because for every action, there's an equal or greater reaction. And when you do something different, the people around you have no choice but to do something different. That's how it works. This is why it only takes one person to raise their vibration and balance their energy in a relationship. And if they're meant to be with the other person, their vibration is going to rise and balance well, because you're on the same energetic frequency.
Interesting too. You had that program called the Relationship Mastery Program.
Yeah.
What is that about?
So that's where I teach people how the universe works, how energy works, how the law of attraction works, how to get in touch with their soul and make decisions from their soul, not their head. So when you make a decision from your head in fear, it's a 50-50 crapshoot. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you're always questioning yourself. When you make that decision from your soul, it's a knowing. You have no doubt, it's not from your head, it's from your soul, so you know the right decision. And when people understand how to do that, your life takes on a completely different concept. It's just amazing. And your path becomes very clear. So everything in your life starts to be fast-tracked, including the abundance in your life. And so the result of the program I put hundreds of people through this program, one person at a time.
Mhm.
And what I learned was that everyone had the same 5 lessons to learn. And when they learn all 5 lessons, this is where the magic starts. So the first lesson is self-worth. And that's
Yes.
understanding that you are so important. You are the only one of you in this entire universe. It's not value. It's not self-value. Value is what other people put on you. Self-worth is understanding how important, how special you are. And it's knowing that no one has power over you to make you do anything. I can't look at you and say, listen, I want you to love me passionately. It doesn't work that way. Only you have the power over you to make you feel anything. And no one can make you happy. It's not when you meet the right person or when you get the right job. That's not where happiness comes from. Only you can make yourself happy. And when that happens, that vibration comes up and it ping pongs and you'll attract everybody else that's happy in their life as well.
Quick question about that. Self-worth. Why do you think people always have trouble with that, though?
It's also society will make you feel that it's narcissistic and selfish to put yourself first. That's what society
Mhm.
says, doesn't it? And it's
Yeah.
not. It's where everything else comes from. If you can't put yourself first, you're not going to be here for anybody else, are you?
No. Is it hard to teach?
For some people are more
Yeah.
stubborn than others. That's the reality. I had my one person was an Army captain, I think he was a captain, and he prided himself in saying he was probably one of my toughest students because he argued with everything and questioned everything. And until he actually did the work and understood, and then his whole life changed. Now he's living on a farm and he's loving life. But yeah, and so yeah, self-worth is not the easiest thing in the world, and it's because of society. And what anybody else thinks of you is none of your business. What you think of you is what matters. That's simple. So the second one is trust and communication. And you have to learn how to communicate your wants and your needs to the other people in your life. We don't know by osmosis. Your employer doesn't know what you want. Your employees don't know what you want. Your mother doesn't know what you want. Your wife or your husband doesn't know what you want unless you can communicate those wants and needs. And you have to trust that there's a higher power. There is. I don't care what you call it. There's only one. 45,000 religions just on Christianity. Okay. Forget the
Oh, wow.
rest. Okay. There's 17,640 recognized religions just in the United States. So they're all right. They're all wrong. Okay. If they're teaching to help each other, because that's one of the reasons we're here, if they're teaching you love and they're teaching you that there is a God, then they're on the right path. Anything else is just a story. Okay. They're little guides for you to go through. Take it as you want it, but there is only one, and you have to know that there is a higher power, and you have to trust that you also made the plan. So if you don't like what's happening in your life here, you've got nobody to blame but yourself. If you're too stubborn and you're not trusting your soul, let's say you're supposed to move across the country and take a job, right? And you're stuck in your head.
Yeah.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I'm afraid of going. I won't know anybody. Blah, blah, blah. And you're not going. And that's where the rest of your life is supposed to progress. Maybe you're supposed to meet the next love of your life and have 6 kids with them or 16 kids. Who knows? But you're not going. So the universe will make you go. Something will happen. Maybe they'll burn your house down and you'll lose your job. So you're like, I don't got nothing left here. I might as well go, right? If you can't get in touch with your soul so that you're on the path you're supposed to be on, the universe will make it tough. And everybody can look back and say, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened and brought me to where I am today. And some of those things were very difficult. But when you look back at it, you'll be like, oh, if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't have brought me here. Nothing is ever happening to you. It's always happening for you, for your highest and best. The entire universe conspires to give you everything you want in this world. They really do. If you believe it, trust it, know it, and trust your soul. Okay?
One thing I think about you just talking about trust and communication, especially relationships like husband and wife and stuff like that.
Sex is nothing more than another form of communication. If you can't trust and communicate outside the bedroom, you're not going to be able to trust and communicate inside the bedroom, are you? Same thing.
No, but I was also thinking about too is people like, especially relationships, if they make like a husband and wife, the husband has to think what the wife wants. My feeling is that relationship is not going to last very long because if the wife, you should know what to do.
Again, it's not osmosis. It's part of your lesson in life to learn how to communicate. That's simple. Then you have unconditional love. And unconditional love is not saying, oh, I guess I have to stay in this sucky relationship because I'm supposed to be practicing unconditional love, even though they beat me every weekend, right? No. This is playing the martyr. And this is where the lessons keep reinforcing each other, because now this brings in the self-worth again, doesn't it? Unconditional love is saying, listen, I love you. I care about you. I want the best for you, and I want the best for me. This isn't working. It's not bringing joy in our life anymore. We need to go our separate ways. And it's meaning it. It's not next weekend when you're hanging out with mutual friends, bad-mouthing the person. That's not unconditional love. Suppose you had a child that you love dearly, and they do something horrific, like murdering a neighbor in a fit of rage. They go to prison for the rest of their life. You don't like what your child did, but hopefully you're still going to love your child, right? That's
Yeah.
unconditional love. And people will say to me, oh, there's conditions there. It was your child or it was your significant other. If you can't learn your lesson on the easy road, the universe will take you down the hard road. Maybe a drunk driver is going to take your child's life. Are you going to understand that it was part of your child's life plan and part of the plan of this drunk driver for whatever lesson he's got to learn? Or are you going to let it destroy your life and you're going to live your life in hate and fear instead of being able to say, listen, I'm grateful that God gave me my child for as long as he did, because they're gifts and they can take them back at any time.
It was interesting you mentioned that quickly for a second, and I just recently happened to me. I told my son, I talked to my son, I said, listen, you're the greatest gift ever for me, and all that stuff. And I had a dream the other night that was so, like, you wake up in the middle of the night and the next morning going, like, really affects you the whole day.
Yeah.
And it was one of those it had to do with him. All of a sudden, we're a crowd of people running, and I'll come back and I see him being carried out on a tarp, like, full of people. And I could have sworn somebody said he's dead in the dream. And I woke up and I was scared, but he was fine.
Yeah.
But it was like one of those, as a parent,
You know
that's the
what?
biggest.
It could be a premonition too of something that may happen down the road, and they're just giving you a little bit of a heads up so that you understand that you can lose anybody at any time. And it's amazing for them. I'm envious because they're getting out early. It's unbelievable on the other side. It's hard on us because we're the ones that are left behind without them until we get to the other side again.
Yeah, it was just interesting. It made me think about that, one of the stuff about relationships and unconditional love. And then about being a parent, that's so important to teach self-worth to my son. Make sure he understands that what everybody thinks he was none of your business.
That's
Like
right.
you said, mentioned before.
Exactly. What anybody thinks about you or has to say about you, it's none of your business. That's their issue and their problem. Then you have money and
Oh,
balance. And money is
mhm.
energy. People don't realize that. That's why it's called currency. And it's what we use in this 3D world to show whether or not your life is in balance, because everything in the universe has to stay in balance. This is why you have your highs and your lows. You have heaven and earth, heaven and hell. You have left and right, sun up, sun down. Everything's got to stay in balance. So there has to be an even exchange of energy for everything. This is why you go to the grocery store and you don't pay $1 million for a gallon of milk yet, right? Not yet.
Not yet.
It has to be that even exchange of energy. And if you're working 80 hours a week because you're trying to get ahead and save your money, the rest of your life's going to be out of balance now, isn't it? You're not going to have time for
Yeah.
your friends, your family, your own hobbies. And then if all you're doing is saving your money and you're not spending it, it's energy. It has to flow. What you put out comes back. The rest of your life is going to be out of balance because you're just hoarding it and you don't have enough self-worth to spend it on yourself. So again, self-worth kicks back in. Money has to flow. This is why truly what you put, the universe will never let you live in lack as long as you trust and believe in that. And even the beggar on the street who chose to learn and do that in this lifetime for whatever reason, if he wants a hot meal in the bed that night, all he's got to do is ask. And I guarantee you it will be provided by someone somewhere. The universe will never let you live in lack. That's not why you're here. Okay. And the last lesson to learn is patience. Because we live in a
Yes.
world of
Yes.
instant gratification right now. Everybody wants everything now. I don't want to wait for it. I wanted it yesterday. And it doesn't work that way. Suppose every little girl or every little boy that wanted to get married and have kids, the stork starts delivering babies. How stupid is that? And then if you're older and say you're in your 30s, oh, my biological clock is ticking. My youngest son, same thing. Oh, I'm getting older. I want to get married. I still want to have kids. I'm like, you wrote it into your plan this way to this point. Doesn't mean it will never happen, Maybe when you're 50, you're going to marry somebody who has younger children and help them raise their children. You don't know. You have to trust that you made this plan and everything that's happening in your life is happening for your highest and best, for you to learn your lessons. This is what it's all about. And you can delay your lessons as long as you want, right? Because the universe wants you to think you have choice, right? But the only choice you really have is to delay your lessons. It's going to offer you door 1, 2, and 3. You take door 1, you go through it, you get married, you have a couple of kids, you get divorced. Where are you going to be? In front of door 1, 2, and 3. Creatures of habit. What do? We take door 1 again. We go through it, we get married a second time, have another couple more kids, get divorced again. If you learn the lesson, you're not taking door 1 anymore. You're going to take door 2 or door 3. And you may still get divorced and have a couple kids, but it's not going to end for the reasons that the first ones did. Okay.
That's interesting too. It's all I'm thinking about that different balances. And patience is an important one because especially as a parent, because you understand they're learning. They're still learning and teaching them how to grow and how things work and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then there's only 3 different types of relationships in this world. There's a karmic relationship, a soulmate, and a twin flame. So the karmic relationship, and this can be friends, it can even be family. You're either there to learn something or teach something to the other person. You make karma in this lifetime when you do something to someone else that you don't make amends for and you don't have remorse. So in the next lifetime, you're going to owe them something. And it doesn't mean that if you stole money from a past lifetime, they're going to come back and steal money from you, because karma is always, again, working for your highest and best. Maybe they're going to come back in this lifetime and they're going to be your boss and teach you how money works, right? So a karmic relationship is someone that either owes you a debt or you owe them a debt from a past life. And you know you're in a karmic relationship because it never feels quite right. You're always looking for the shoe to drop or the red flags. It's like you woke up one morning and you're like, why do I even have this person in my life anymore? Why am I friends with this person? Because one or the other learned the lesson. If you both learn the lesson, it ends amicably. If only one or the other learn the lesson, it ends, but it's not going to be amicable. They may be bad mouthing you all day long.
That's interesting. They mentioned the other shoe drop and that feeling in relationships. That sounds quite familiar. I don't know if any people you work with.
Everybody's had plenty of them because you have to learn your lessons. And then there's the soulmate relationship. And again, it's there meant to either learn a lesson or teach a lesson, but it's there to afford you some love and comfort along the way. So you know it's a soulmate because it feels really comfortable. It's like you've known this person forever. That's a soulmate relationship. And a soulmate relationship doesn't necessarily have to end once the lesson is learned. It really depends on what you've written into your life path. They can last a long time. I know people have been with the same person for years and learned all their lessons through that. Or could end and there could be another soulmate that comes in. What's a soulmate? Because it's comfortable.
What is the last one?
The last one's a twin flame. And there's a lot of misinformation around the internet about it because of all the movies and everything that's come out. Everybody thinks it's this wild romantic love. It is not. They're extremely rare. It's literally one soul that splits in 2 and reincarnates in 2 separate bodies and forever will reincarnate on 2 separate bodies. And at a predetermined time that you wrote into your life pattern, you will meet each other. And when that happens, it will throw your life out the window. It just blows up your life, literally. It's always extremely passionate, extremely sexual, and extremely psychic, and extremely short. It literally lasts from a few days to a few months. And when it ends, it's like you ghosted each other. There's no contact. Now, twin flames is only a certain number of them, a few 100,000 on the earth at any given time. You have to learn the 5 lessons that your soul is supposed to be learning to advance, and you have to get on your path. And twin flames are here for a higher path. They're here to save humanity. And if they don't get on that path, they will not reconnect in this lifetime. If they're both on that path at some point in time, they will have an opportunity to reconnect in this lifetime. Most don't. Most have to wait till they get back to the other side again, because one or the other cannot learn the lessons and get on their path.
June, you shared a lot of great information there in the podcast, and I really appreciate it. And I took a lot away from this. I'm just listening most of the time and asking a few questions, but wrapping up, I just wonder if you could leave with a final thoughts, anything we didn't cover, maybe something that came to mind while we're talking.
Yeah, I was a single parent for a long time. And I think it's maybe a little tougher on dads than it is on moms, only because of the stigma. Men, we're different. Men and women are different. Men, they don't think men are as nurturing because men are raised to be the protector, and women are raised to be the nurturer, not necessarily the protector. But when you have to play both roles, you play both roles. It makes no difference if you're a man or a woman. And women have been brought up to express their feelings a little bit better than men. So that's a challenge for men. Doesn't mean they don't have those feelings. It just means that they were raised not to express them necessarily as often or the same way as women do. So as you're raising your children, if you're raising them alone, unfortunately, you have to play both roles. You have to be able to instill in all your children, whether they're male or female, how to express those feelings appropriately, how to play the role that they're here to play, whether it's a man or a woman. I raised 3 wonderful boys. I'm very proud of all 3 of them. They're amazing men and they have amazing children and families. Very proud of them all. God doesn't give you anything more than you can handle, right? That's how it
Exactly.
works. Rise to the occasion and be proud of who you are, be proud of your children. And don't take everything so seriously. There was a kid the other day on the internet, a little boy about 3 or 4 years old, that took marker and colored all over the kitchen cabinets and the floor, and he drew happy faces. And he was so smiley when his mommy came in. She's like, "Why did you do that?" He goes, "I want to make you happy." And she just killed the moment for this poor kid. No one's happy. I'm not happy. Look how horrible this. I'm like, oh my God.
Huh,
She's 3 or
That's
4
sweet.
years old. Look what you've now instilled in this poor child. Oh, just like, oh, this is wonderful, honey, but we don't do it here. Let's clean this up and let's get you paper to do it on. So don't react and overreact to things that it's not a life and death situation. So they're not going to do something that's spontaneous or that's fun like that anymore. He'd be a big kid, for crying out loud. Look at it a little differently in life sometimes.
Like, people don't understand sometimes that experience, what you just spoke about the mother being upset with the child for drawing happy faces everywhere, has a long-term effect
It does.
later in life.
It does. That's my
And
point. Yeah.
it
Don't.
does.
Yeah.
Where can they connect with you? Where can find more about you and more about your program and your books?
So everything is on my website. It's June Edward, no S, juneedward.com. And there is a free webinar that people can sign up for to learn a little bit more about energy. And it will also tell you a little bit more about the Relationship Mastery Program. If you're interested in that, you can sign up after for a free call with me to see if you're a good fit. There's lots of videos on there that you can watch from my students. You can schedule an appointment with me if you'd like. I do readings. Other than just mediumship, I do numerology and astrology, tell you a little bit what's going on in your life, what's coming up, why things are happening in your life. It's always good to learn the why behind the things because we planned all that. And you can, so you can schedule an appointment with me on there. If you just need advice, I also do that as well. And there are links to all of my books right on the front. So the fastest way to order them, I have 4 books. All's Fair in Love and Karma is my newest bestseller that will give you the 5 lessons. And there are directions to meditate properly in all of my books because I feel that it is that important to get in touch with your soul. And I have people now that went through my program, a lot of single dads. More men took my program than women, believe it or not. They teach it to their kids now. It's great.
Well, June, thank you much for being on the podcast today. I really do appreciate it. All the links will be in the show notes for this episode. Thank you much for your time, and I had a great conversation. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Wrapping up, I want to thank June for being a guest on the podcast today. I really do appreciate her time having a great conversation with us today. You can find more about her over at juneedward.com. You can find all the links from this episode over at nosittingonthesideline.com/146. If you have any questions or want to reach out and just say hello, I'd love to hear from you. Go to nosittingonthesideline.com/contact. If you enjoyed this podcast, share with a friend, tell a friend, get the word out, because if information is helpful for you, it'll be helpful for somebody else. Until next time, take care. God bless. See ya.